Good evening, this is your AI host, J. I'm here with the automatically generated, Journato, evening headlines on November 28, 2022. Idaho murders, live, police calls surge as Moscow community racked by fear 2 weeks on from college killings. The Independent, University of Idaho college murders, former FBI Bill Daley explains chilling theory. Daily Mail, Moscow, Idaho community on edge as students return from break, police see more 911 calls pouring in. Fox News, Idaho police record surge in calls since college murders as students return to Moscow after Thanksgiving. The Independent, latest info, Moscow PD, surviving roommates arrived home just after 1 a.m. Europe's South offers a warm welcome to energy migrants. Reuters, Europe's South offers a warm welcome to energy migrants this winter season. Iran Supreme Leader's niece calls on governments to cut ties with murderous and child-killing regime. Sky News, niece of Iran's Supreme Leader calls on other countries to cut ties with regime. The Guardian, Iran arrests Khamenei niece after condemning regime, France 24 English. France 24 English, niece of Supreme Leader asks world to cut ties with Iran. Bloomberg, niece of Iran's Supreme Leader arrested after call to boycott, child-killing regime. If the secret police had a file on you, why wouldn't you want to see it? Ask the Germans spied on by the Stasi. Poorer women in UK have 6th highest cancer death rates in Europe, WHO finds. Somalia Villa Rays attack, siege ends leaving 8 civilians dead. BBC, Britain dies in Mogadishu hotel siege by Al-Shabaab militants. The Times, Brit feared to be among 4 dead in Al-Shabaab terror attack in hotel in Somalia. Evening Standard, Al-Shabaab rebels attack Mogadishu hotel used by Somali officials. Al Jazeera English, Al-Shabaab militants besiege hotel in Mogadishu, Somali parliament session postponed. Netanyahu strikes Israeli coalition deal with far-right homophobic leader. The Guardian, Netanyahu puts extremist homophobic politician in charge of Israel's Jewish identity. The Times of Israel, Netanyahu offers national security post to ultra-nationalist Ben-Gvir. Al-Monitor, Israel's Likud signs coalition deal with anti-LGBTQ radical. The Washington Post, insanity, unreal, Netanyahu slammed over deal with anti-pluralistic, homophobic MK. Chinese bots flood Twitter in attempt to obscure COVID protests. The Guardian, the cryptic codes China's protesters are using to oppose the zero-COVID policy. The Telegraph, Twitter grapples with Chinese spam obscuring news of protests. The Washington Post, global shame for Xi Jinping, Chinese cops force protesters to delete videos, watch. World trade slowing as Ukraine war, high energy prices and inflation hit global economy, Business Live. The Guardian, China protests sparks market volatility. IG UK, traders brace for fresh stock market falls as protests grip China. The Telegraph, FTSE 100 down and oil price hits 11-month low as China protests hit markets. Yahoo Finance UK, European stocks lower, Brenntag slumps over acquisition talk by investing.com. Maryland plane crash, pilot and passenger trapped for 7 hours rescued after aircraft becomes tangled in power lines 100 feet above ground. Sky News, small plane crashes into power lines in Maryland. The Times, 2 survivors left, dangling 100 feet, over high-voltage power lines after Maryland plane crash. The Independent, U.S. plane crashes into transmission tower in Maryland. International News, English News, WION. Ecuador gangs, gunmen storm hospital in attempt to kill teen. World's largest active volcano Mauna Loa erupts in Hawaii causing more than dozen earthquakes. The Independent, Mauna Loa, the world's largest active volcano on Hawaii has erupted. Daily Mail, Mauna Loa, world's biggest volcano starts erupting spewing lava over Hawaii. The Mirror, Mauna Loa, world's largest active volcano erupts in Hawaii. BBC, Hawaii, world's largest active volcano erupts again after 38 years. Protests against harsh lockdown rules intensify in China as UK journalist beaten and kicked by police covering unrest. Russia wants to break Ukraine with the cold and dark. It hasn't succeeded, so far. The Guardian, Ukrainians determined to face bleak winter as Russia strikes power grid. The Telegraph, Vladimir Putin trying to starve Ukrainians into giving up in the war, but he will fail, says UK's Foreign Secretary. Tories will not reach embarrassingly poor nature targets by 2030, Labour says. The Guardian, Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity loss highlights state's failure to address crisis. The Irish Times, call to protect biodiversity and nature in Constitution. RTEIE, Citizens' Assembly calls for referendum on biodiversity loss. The Irish Times, Jane Goodall addresses Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity. Ukraine-Russia news, live, Putin's troops continue to bombard reclaimed Kherson. The Independent, Russia versus Ukraine war update live, Russia intensifies attacks after Kherson pullout, News 18 live. CNN News 18, Russia-Ukraine live news, NATO says Putin using winter as weapon. Al Jazeera English, Ukraine warns of fresh Russian missile strikes. France 24 English, Ukraine war latest updates, Kyiv expects more attacks and nuclear plant still under Russian control. Super cartel that controlled a third of Europe's cocaine trade taken down by Europol. Sky News, Operation Desert Light, Europol take down massive cocaine super cartel. BBC, 30 tons of cocaine seized in raids against European super cartel. The Guardian, European super cartel drug lords arrested in Dubai. The Times, cocaine super cartel dismantled in Dubai, Europe, Europol. Chinese police out in force in attempt to deter COVID lockdown protests. The Guardian, protests over China's strict lockdown hit Shanghai and other cities. Evening Standard, China COVID protests, security tightened in China after widespread COVID protests. BBC, Xi '(S) toughest test yet. WIAON, China's revolt against zero COVID, WSJ. This was all for the news. Thanks for listening. Please do not forget to like and subscribe.